You had a you had a pretty good group this morning. That's you ought to be happy with the farmers and industry people over here.
Yeah, we had a good group, a lot of questions. Yeah.
And what were the farmers wanting to know? The ones who are producing wheat wanting to know what you have been finding out.
Yeah, well, everybody always wants to know how they're going to get higher yields, and how are they going to make more profit, make their double crop system more profitable. And we told them what we can help with, which, we talked about our breeding program and the variety testing and some resources they can use to look at to identify good varieties, which is, the variety testing report that we put out. And then we also had the plant pathologists in the crop science department speak about disease management in wheat and some of the research areas and new things, technologies coming on for disease management.
Now, I'm sure every wheat producer that was here was thinking about how can I get higher
Hmm.
yields. And you just can't snap your finger and get one because there's so many factors going into that wheat plant that mean higher yields or not higher yields.
Yes, and also the weather has a big role. You can try to do the same management every year and get different results. And even we face this with varieties. You can have a great variety one year, next year it doesn't do as well, but the next year it does even better. So there's just a lot of variation that we have to deal with.
What are some of the factors that you are adjusting in your breeding program that may do this, but you have to uh, uh, be aware that it could counteract something else?
Yeah, so when we look at early maturity, like we're trying to get early maturity in combination with yield, we're constantly having to balance those two objectives because there is that effect of having an early maturity, you having a shorter growing season, um, less time to make yield, and so we're constantly having to look at those two traits. In addition to that, all the other traits, so higher yield, and standability. That's another one. So you try to select for high yield, you often get more lodging. So we have to evaluate all those things, and then at the end of the season, look at the data, and then make decisions. And you will hardly ever find one variety that's going to be the best in every category. There's always trade-offs.
There's no one magic one that
Right,
somebody could
right,
plant.
right. I mean, definitely there if you look at over time the progress that has been made, any variety of today is going to be better than a variety from 20 years ago
Right.
in probably every category.
I've seen some wheat that's lodged pretty bad this
Hmm.
year. It might have been some weather, but I wondered if somebody maybe put on a little bit too much nitrogen wanting to get a few more bushels.
That's always possible. That's there has been that trend towards more intensive management, more nitrogen, in addition, growth regulators. I saw a field recently that looked like, like a field I'm used to visiting, um, but it seemed taller. And I asked the farmer if he applied the growth regulator, and he did, but it just maybe it didn't have the same effect this year. I don't know. That's speculation, but there is always those year to year effects, and that could be. But I do remember seeing a lot of lodging last year, probably even worse. There were whole fields completely flat, and so yeah, that's something that's we're just constantly having to battle.
Now, you've got some very positive things coming up in the future here with the wheat checkoff being
Hmm.
passed, and so there'll be money for research.
Hmm.
Do we know what focus points that
Hmm.
will go to?
So I know that those that have been involved in setting up the checkoff put some the guidelines together, and they really want it to be for research and education, things that are going to help improve profitability for growers. Um, Research, I know that what we're really missing out on is the agronomic research on wheat. We have the breeding program, we're developing varieties, we have, the pathologist talk, we have the breeding program talk, but what we're missing here is the
Agronomy.
agronomy. And
Wow.
so I know there is some work being done here, but it hasn't been very much just because there hasn't been the funding sources for it. like you do with the other commodities. And so I think I'd be really happy to have more colleagues
Sure.
that are working in agronomy because I can't answer a lot of those
Right.
questions. People come to me with those questions and I can tell you what I know, but it's not going to be the same as somebody who is like dedicating their whole career to that.
Like a
So,
Fred Belo.
exactly, exactly.